Okay, picture this. It's the summer of 71. And the headlines, well, they're just screaming about government deception, Vietnam War deception. It was this massive bombshell, really shook things up, changed how Americans saw their leaders, the media, everything. So today, we're doing a deep dive into that exact moment. We're talking Pentagon Papers, Daniel Ellsberg, the whole leak, and how it really sent shockwaves through American democracy. Our mission here is to pull out the key stuff, the really important insights from the sources, give you a shortcut to understanding why this was such a watershed moment and why it still matters. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, and that framing is so important because looking back at these moments, these leaks, this tension around government transparency,
Yeah.
it's not just history. It really helps us understand our own world today, right? The same questions are still here. Who controls information? Who do you trust? What's the press's role? Those questions from the Pentagon Papers era. They feel, well, louder than ever now.
Absolutely. And to really get it, you need the backdrop. Mid-60s Vietnam. By 67, there are over 400,000 U.S. troops there, publicly. President Johnson, his administration, they're all confident. Victory's coming, progress is steady. That's the message. But the TV news, what people saw, often a carefully managed picture, very different from what was known, behind closed doors.
Oh, completely different. The internal reports, the assessments, they painted a much bleaker picture. This wasn't your standard war. It was messy guerrilla warfare. No clear front lines, objectives kept shifting, casualties mounting. Inside Washington, more and more people knew America couldn't just bomb its way out or march its way out.
Right.
And that gap, that's the crucial thing here. The public story versus the internal knowledge. It created this credibility chasm even before the papers came out.
And it's that exact gap that leads Defense Secretary Robert McNamara in 1967 to commission this huge top-secret study. The official title is incredibly dry, something like Report of the Office of the Secretary of Defense Vietnam Task Force. Sounds boring, right?
Yeah, very bureaucratic.
But the contents, dynamite. Over 7,000 pages. Dozens of analysts detailing U.S. involvement way back from 1945 right up to 67.
And what that study showed, it wasn't just history. It was proof of decades of deception, as you said. And the key point is, it wasn't just mistakes here and there. It was systemic. 4 administrations, a culture, really, of prioritizing the public image, keep up appearances, even if the truth is inconvenient. It showed how leaders misled everyone, the public, Congress, maybe even themselves sometimes, to justify going deeper into the war.
Which brings us to Daniel Ellsberg. Fascinating guy, former Marine, short military analyst at RAM Corporation. And initially, he was actually for the war, helped write some early optimistic reports, believe it or not.
Right, he was an insider.
Exactly. But then he goes to Vietnam, sees it firsthand, and things start to, unravel for them. Imagine that shift. A patriot, a believer, seeing the gap between the official story and the brutality, the futility on the ground, the human cost. He saw it wasn't winnable.
That must have been incredibly jarring.
So when he gets his hands on the Pentagon Papers, he's already questioning things. But even he was shocked by what he found. These thousands of pages laid it bare. Administration after administration, Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, they had all knowingly misled the American public. Consistently.
And it wasn't vague stuff. The papers showed specific deceptions, like exaggerating how well the war was going, painting this rosy picture, hiding secret bombings in Cambodia and Laos, expanding the war secretly.
Without telling Congress or the public.
Exactly. And maybe the worst part, documents showed they escalated the war even when their own intelligence, their own people were saying victory was unlikely, maybe impossible. This wasn't just spin. It was actively withholding critical information, undermining the whole idea of democratic consent, really.
Ellsberg himself called it a chronicle of lies. Just blunt.
Yeah.
Think about that weight. Discovering the government you served systematically lied for decades.
It puts you in an impossible position, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Duty to secrecy versus
Yeah.
conscience, what the public deserves to know.
He felt he had to act. And this part, it really does sound like a spy story. A very tense, low-tech spy story. Ellsberg and a colleague, Anthony Russo, they start this covert copying operation, months of work.
Yeah, sneaking documents out at night.
Right, in briefcases, photocopying thousands of pages on probably a really clunky machine.
And ring away, hoping nobody notices.
Then sneaking them back before morning, praying nobody missed anything. It was incredibly risky.
And it's interesting, his first move wasn't the press. People sometimes forget that. He tried the official route first.
Yeah.
Went to senators like William Fulbright. Hoped Congress would hold hearings, deal with it that way.
You wouldn't touch it.
Pretty much rebuffed him. Too risky politically, apparently. taking on classified stuff like that. So those official doors closed.
Which left him feeling he had no choice, right? If the system wouldn't act, maybe the public needed to know directly. So he turns to the media, believing it was the public's right to know what was being done in their name. And then June 1971, boom, the New York Times publishes the first part. That headline, Vietnam Archive, Pentagon study traces 3 decades of growing U.S. involvement. Just landed like a grenade.
Oh, absolutely. A thunderclap. People woke up and read that their leaders hadn't just, messed up the war. They'd actively lied about it for decades. That hits hard. It wasn't just anger. It was betrayal. It fundamentally shifted trust in government for a lot of people, planted seeds of cynicism.
And President Nixon's reaction, predictable maybe, absolute fury.
Off the charts fury.
Even though, and this is the irony, the paper stopped in '67. Before he was even president.
Right. It wasn't about his secrets initially.
But he feared the precedent. If they can leak this, what else could come out? Stuff from his administration.
Exactly. So he orders the Justice Department, stop them publishing more, shut it down.
Which was huge.
Unprecedented, really. The first time in American history the federal government tried to gag a newspaper like that, tried prior restraint. This wasn't just politics anymore. It was a direct challenge to the First Amendment. Freedom of the press. Huge implications.
And that set up this major showdown in court. The landmark case, New York Times come v. United States. The government's argument, national security is at risk. Publishing this harms the country, especially during a war.
The classic argument.
The newspaper's argument, First Amendment, free press. Our job is to hold government accountable. The public needs to know this.
And the Supreme Court acted fast, really fast. Just 15 days later, June 30th, 1971, the ruling, 6-3. In favor of the newspapers.
Wow.
A massive win for the press. The court basically said the government hadn't met the incredibly high bar needed to justify prior restraint.
And Justice Hugo Black wrote that famous line, right? Something like, only a free and unrestrained press can effectively expose deception in government.
Exactly. Such powerful words. It just underscored the press's role as a watchdog.
So a huge legal victory.
Absolutely. More than just winning a case. It cemented the press's role in accountability. It said, look, the public's right to know about what its government is doing, especially past deceptions, that often outweighs secrecy claims. A crucial line drawn.
Now, okay, the papers didn't, stop the war overnight.
No, the war dragged on.
But they totally changed the conversation that people felt betrayed reading this stuff. Support for the war just plummeted.
Yeah, the anti-war movement got a huge boost. And government credibility, already shaky, took a nosedive. Maybe never fully recovered for some people.
And Nixon, this whole thing pushed him over the edge, didn't it? Towards more extreme measures.
It really did. He was furious, paranoid about leaks, enemies everywhere. So he creates this secret unit, the plumbers.
Infamous.
Their job, stop leaks. And specifically go after Daniel Ellsberg, discredit him. It was pure retaliation for the papers.
And their first job says it all. They broke into Ellsberg's psychiatrist's office, looking for dirt, anything to smear him.
Think about that. The president's men breaking into a doctor's office, a shocking abuse of power.
It's just unbelievable.
And here's the wild connection, the kind of historical aha moment. That break-in didn't really yield anything useful against Ellsberg. But the plumbers, this unit created out of the Pentagon Papers fallout, they didn't just stop there.
Right.
Their next big job, breaking into the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate Hotel.
And there it is, the link.
Exactly. The plumbers' Watergate break-in, which came directly from the mindset and the unit created to deal with the Ellsberg leak, that's what ultimately brought Nixon down. It's his incredible ripple effect.
Wow. So what happened to Ellsberg personally through all this? He faced serious charges.
Oh, yeah. Espionage, theft, conspiracy. He was looking at potentially over 100 years in prison, a massive legal battle.
But he walked free in the end.
He did. In 1973, during his trial, all this government misconduct started coming out. The illegal wiretapping, the break-in at his psychiatrist's office. It was so outrageous, the judge had to dismiss all charges. The government's own illegal actions basically destroyed their case against him.
Talk about irony.
Completely. The actions taken to punish him ended up saving him.
And after that, he didn't just fade away.
Not at all. He spent the rest of his life as a really prominent activist, advocating for transparency, whistleblower rights, peace, nonviolence. He lived those principles.
So summing up the legacy here is pretty huge.
It really is, on multiple levels. First, press freedom. That Supreme Court ruling cemented the press's right to publish important classified info in the public interest, still vital today.
Okay.
Second, public trust. The papers, followed by Watergate, created this deep skepticism towards government that, lingers even now,
Yeah.
changed that relationship.
Yeah, you still feel that.
Third, whistleblowers. Ellsberg became this icon, right? An inspiration, or at least a model, for later figures like Chelsea Manning, Edward Snowden, people leaking information they think the public needs. And finally, Vietnam itself. The papers confirmed it. The war was unwinnable, built on lies. That narrative became undeniable.
And eventually, the government did officially declassify the whole thing, right, in
Yeah.
2011.
Yeah, 40 years later. But by then, the secrets were long out. History had already been changed.
So wrapping this all up, what's the big takeaway for us now? This isn't just about 1971. It's about these timeless issues, right? Secrecy versus democracy, the need for a free press, even when it's uncomfortable for those in power. And sometimes it takes incredible individual courage to bring truth to light, whatever the cost.
Exactly. It really comes back to what Ellsberg always said. The public is entitled to know the truth about what's being done in its name.
Mm,
That principle feels more urgent than ever, doesn't it, in our current information environment?
definitely. Which leaves us with something for you, the listener, to think about. In our world now, digital, connected, information everywhere, misinformation too, how do we strike that balance? National security versus the public's right to know. What lesson from the Pentagon Papers stands out most to you today when figuring out truth from lies feels harder than ever? Lots to chew on there. Thanks for diving deep with us.